Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode, and this episode is very important, especially for those who want to build on startup ecosystem and something like that. Uh, we have our friends, Mr. James Eid, and he is from Silicon Valley. He has very good experience from corporation as well as from Silicon Valley regarding this startup ecosystem. In between 1 year, we will finish our sessions and we will discuss how Silicon Valley actually growing their ecosystem. I think he can discuss both on profitable and non-profitable organizations. He has his own startup like GMeet Foundations. So, Mr. James Eid, how do you want to analyze today's topic?
Thank you, Sharif, for inviting me. This is an important topic. Um, I want to start by saying, what a startup is. A startup is a new business venture or new organization. And so when you think about business ventures, there are regulations that govern business ventures. So there are forms that I had to file with the state and with the national government. And there's forms that I have to complete every year that says that for example, right now I'm a not-for-profit, so I have to fill out a form that says I'm not for profit, and these are my assets, and these are my debits, and these are the expenses, and these are the donations, and all of that kind of stuff. So when you think of a startup, there's a lot of stuff that goes along with it that isn't really something you think about or get taught about. So the regulations that you have to follow to start up a business organization are one thing, and to start up any kind of organization, you have to have a community. You have to have a different way of thinking about the problems that you're trying to solve. Like, why are you starting this organization or business venture? Why? Are you trying to solve a problem? Well, what is that problem? And do people need a solution to that problem? Ask yourselves this before you get started. If you can see a problem and you think you have a solution, will anyone buy it if you're for profit? Will anybody want to buy it? Don't start a venture that will provide a solution to a problem that nobody cares about. So think about, what are you doing? What are you attempting to do? Does it have value? Before you get started. So many startups fail. The successes are what you read about, but the failures are far more frequent than the successes. So start with the knowledge that the odds are against you. And I always tell people this: start with yourself first. What are your skills? What are your weaknesses? And if you answer that question by saying, I have no weaknesses, I think you're living in a world of delusion. And I don't like your odds of success. Everybody has strengths and everybody has weaknesses. So what do you want to do about your weaknesses? Have confidence in your strengths. Great. That's wonderful. But what about your weaknesses? How are you going to compensate for your weaknesses? For example, I mentioned the regulations. Are you excited about filling out regulations? I'm not. But there are people that like to do that kind of work. So maybe you need someone who's going to be really good about getting the numbers accurate and filling out the forms correctly and filing them on time. Maybe you need somebody like that on your startup venture. Maybe you need a team, because one of the things about startups is they're often driven by a person with great individual insight, self-confidence, to the point of arrogance, to the point where they don't think they need other people. But it turns out that they fail more often than they succeed because they didn't build the proper team. They
Mhm.
didn't cover the weaknesses that they bring to the table.
Mhm.
So you will read about an occasional person who is the exception to the rule, but the rule is that you will need someone to help you. Now, ask yourself this, start with yourself. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? An introvert is someone who likes to work on the numbers, works on the computer, works on the applications, does things like that. But are you good about mingling? Because the other part of startup successes are networking. And I don't mean the terms of communications between devices. I mean networking in terms of getting people to to hang out with you, to go to lunch with you, to go to the same kinds of meetings that you go to, that you talk to, that you have their phone numbers, that you can call them and they know who you are when you call. That kind of networking, because then you will
Mhm.
see opportunities that you will otherwise miss. So that's what I wanted to set the table with. What is a startup? How do you evaluate yourself as someone who can be an entrepreneur to start up a new business venture or a new organization of any kind?
Mhm, mhm. One important aspect I just want to know, let's say many startup actually fail, even though like networking we meet with many peoples. Every network is not like we can monetize it, or we can make it more effective. So in that situation, 2 point: number one, how actually our network will be more effective, and number two, how we can reduce the unsuccessful startup, like percentage of unsuccessful startup with the help of networking and the people relationship. What your idea?
Well, part of the thing that you can do is have somebody on your team that is an outgoing personality. Um, there might be somebody who's a technically a genius, but is not an outgoing personality, and have that person who has that personality join groups, join social media groups, go to conferences. And that person who has this outgoing, bubbly personality will make these contacts. Because one of the things that startups often fail is because they're undercapitalized. They don't have enough money to keep going. And one of the ways that networking can help you is in getting someone who's interested in either what the problem is that you're trying to solve. They think that it has social good, social value, and they may, in a not-for-profit case, they may make donations, or they may introduce you to someone who makes a donation, or they may introduce you to someone who introduces you to someone who makes a donation. This is what networking is. And if it's in a for-profit venture, they may be introducing you to somebody who's willing to invest. Now, you'll probably have to give up some control of your startup if you want to get long-term investors. But unless you're starting with an unlimited bankroll, like your dad is Fred Trump or something like that, and he starts you off with a lot of money behind you, um, you're going to often face the problem of being undercapitalized. And if you have to hire people to do part of the work that you cannot do yourself, because very rarely can one person do it all, then you have to pay them. How are you going to pay them? And so your burn rate, your monthly burn rate, do you need rent? Do you need to pay payroll? Do you need to do these things? This adds up, and people often underestimate how fast that burn rate will eat into whatever you started with. So people underestimate the capitalization that they require, and they don't exploit their networks to the sufficiently to find people who are willing to invest, give them advice on how to cut expenses, give them donations in cases of not-for-profit organizations, introduce people that can help you. Would clearly define your objectives in your mind so that you can communicate them very quickly. We call this an elevator pitch. Very concisely and clearly tell them what you're about. Communicate. Have business cards to hand out. Take business cards. Collect the data, the contact information for everybody you meet. Now, this is the type of person that can really help your organization, even though they don't know how to code. So part of the arrogance of some of the failures is that people don't value what they aren't good at. They aren't good at social media. They aren't good at networking, so they don't value it. Well, no, you've got to value everyone's contributions for what everyone brings to the table, and realize that what you're good at might be get you only so far, and you might need teamwork. You might need the ability to team, and this gets into leadership. Do you have leadership skills? Ask yourself that. If you don't, maybe you need to get somebody on your team that has them. So these are the questions that I would ask myself before I even begin. What am I good at? What do I need to help me? And the networking is a key component to this, because otherwise, if you try to sell you say you build a product and you try to sell it, who are you going to sell it to? Who they don't know you exist. So you must be able to get your message out there. And Sharif, you're doing it now with these presentations that you're doing a daily show on complicated issues, and you're having panelists come on and tell you their perspective, and then you're sending that out on YouTube and social media and things like that, so people will see the product that you're putting out there. And so I'm a tip of the hat to the way you're going about your organization.
Mhm. Thank you, thank you. I'm just sharing few statistics because I already shared our content actually heavily utilizing. Even I just want to share even many college, they're engaging with their thousands of students with our World Talent Economy Forum. They're utilizing our content for their academic case study purpose, development purpose, understanding the models of the global communities. So that's why today actually I have a plan to, we have some visionary people from startup ecosystem. I invite them all. Maybe they are busy or something like that. Anyway, I'm just sharing some statistics for our youth communities because this kind of statistics actually help them to understand the ecosystem. So startup statistic for 2021. Uh, so what we find, around 30% of the startup failed due to lack of capital or profitability. This is very important. uh, what you already discussed. 77% of startup founders said they face potential failure in 2020 due to COVID-19. This is very important. Like 77% startup already fail because of COVID-19. So now government has to help. Now a corporation has to help. University has to help this kind of ecosystem as well. Then 4.4 million new companies start operating in 2020 already, even though many new companies also uh, start their business in 2020. This is also opportunity for startup ecosystem. Impact driven founder are most successful. So we have to be very much impactful for the society. China account for the largest number of patent held worldwide. So China actually has lot of patents in their hands. They are innovating more technology. 36% of the workers in the United States are freelancer. 66 venture capital backed companies joined the rank of unicorn in 2020. 75% of the startup backed by the venture capabilities fail. Artificial intelligence startup funding grew $8.2 billion in 2020. QB Holding LLC is the cost list startup failure of all time, with a loss of $1.7 billion. So there are some good news, there are some bad news. So yeah, so Mr. Jamesit, how do you want to analyze?
Well, unicorn is like this, kind of magical, special type of organization that doesn't, you don't think really exists, but it does. And so this is the kind of thing that's attracting a lot of venture capital money. And one of the things I'll say about venture capital is they often try to control the company that you founded. So, it's good to get the money because capitalization is one of the reasons most companies fail. Many companies fail. And, so, it sounds like a good idea. They're going to give you money, but then, you're going to give up some control of the company, and how much control are you willing to give up? That's something that you have to ask yourself. But, there's things like the failure rate due to COVID. That's like a kind of thing that you cannot control. You cannot predict. You cannot control. So there are going to be failures due to natural disasters, for example, and things like that. And I don't calculate them. I don't factor them into my calculations because who knows? It may happen, it may not, and it doesn't really matter to me in terms of my preparedness. Okay, I'm not going to build my office on a edge of a cliff that's usually gets mudslides. So yeah, of course you factor it into that extent, but not much more. And why we have an uptick in startups is because companies fired a lot of people or laid them off. or let them go, whatever euphemism you want to use. And so they had to start something up. They had to do something else to earn money. Um, and so this is a consequence of the pandemic. So we see that new ventures are starting, new businesses are starting, but are they sufficiently capitalized? Are they going to struggle? What if I wanted to start a restaurant? Can I hire a cook? Can I do the cooking and cleaning and waiting and busing and all that stuff myself? No. Can I hire the people? How long do I have the ability to pay them? These are questions that you have to think through before you begin, because it might sound like a great idea to you, but is it feasible? Is it sustainable? These are the questions. So you have to do the analysis prior to initiating the venture. And I think a lot of the things that we're seeing in terms of statistics, they can teach us a great deal about why people have failed in the past. And undercapitalization is one of them. So make sure you have sufficient bankroll. And if you don't, if you don't have that much money, you better be able to sell your product. So you have to become profitable. So how are you going to get people to know that your product exists? How are you going to get people to know that your product is good? Does your product fill a need? All of these things are going to go into your factor into your equations of whether or not you will become profitable. Because people who are going to invest in your company are looking for a return on their investment. I'm not going to give you $1 million just because you're a nice guy. I'm going to give you $1 million if I think I can make 1.5 million in the course of a couple of years. Then I'm going to be interested in giving you $1 million. Not otherwise. I don't care how good looking you are, how charming you are. I just look at the numbers and say, am I going to get my money back, and am I going to make money? And what are my chances of making money off of you, lending you money? So these are the things that you're going to run up against. You're going to run up against people who are pretty hardball about giving you their money. And you can have the greatest sales pitch in the world, and it's not going to budge them unless you have the numbers to support it. And if you estimate your profitability at a gazillion dollars in the first 6 months, they're going to laugh at you. So make it realistic. Make your numbers work so that they are interesting and that they're clearly realistic, and have a good story about why that number is realistic. And that's when you can convince someone. That's when you can make or break the deal, when you can convince them that your numbers are solid. Anybody can write down any number, but can you convince someone that your number is solid? And are you the type of personality that is good at convincing people? If not, get someone who is. Get them to go to the venture capitalist or to the bank or to someone else and have them do the pitching. Maybe that's not your strong suit. Maybe it is. So evaluate yourself first. Get the people that cover for your weaknesses. Surround yourself with a team of people that can make all of it add up to the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And then you have a chance. You're not having any guarantee, but you have a chance for success.
Thank you for your guidelines. I love to learn more about California like startup ecosystem. Beside that, worldwide informations we love to share, because we can analyze this way, like what's going on around the world, and we can bring very good insight for startup ecosystem. China and United States account for most of the highest value startups. So definitely USA and China has their wealth. They are investing a lot of money for startup. Venture capital funding in 2020 increased by 14% from 2009. It's according to Bloomberg. So definitely it will be helpful for the startup ecosystem. Robotic industry has grown 14,000 1,400, sorry, 1,400% over the last 5 years. So this is another opportunities as the robotic industry is growing. Artificial intelligence startup funding grew $8.2 billion in 2002. So everybody said we are losing business, we have a lot of problems, this and that. This is not ultimately true. The most Active regions for the startup are the Caribbeans and Latin America. So this is interesting for me as well. Chile rank as the top entrepreneurial country worldwide. So this is also interesting that Chile also a like startup like a developing nations, but they are producing top entrepreneurial countries. Qatar, Indonesia, Thailand, Panama, Angola, and Madagascar entrepreneurial activity is very spread between the two sex. So genders wise, men and women, even from Asia Pacific countries, Indonesia, Thailand's, even from Asia, Qatar's. So they are doing fantastic work. New Zealand, Canada, and Hong Kong are the best place for open business in 2021. Entrepreneurship has gotten a lot of media attention in Southeast Asia. So Southeast Asia, Asia Pacific doing good. Opportunity for entrepreneurs are considered the highest in the United States, Germany, and UK. So there are some good news definitely for entrepreneurs, especially for startup ecosystem. And we are trying to help the youth community for developing the ecosystem. And entrepreneur is the way of development, and that's why we are taking this World Talent Economy Forum, School of Talent Economy, even Asia Research and Development Institute. We are working together, and we are making an interesting bridging in between entrepreneurs as well as in between the youth communities. So what is your advice? There are many good news we are observing last 2 years for a
Sharif, do me a
startup.
favor and put that screen back up, and let's take them one at a time, because that sped by very quickly, and I think this is a really good uh,
Yeah,
source of information.
yeah,
And they're making really important points, but you
yeah,
can't. I
yeah, yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
absorb all of it. So
No
China,
problem.
yeah,
China and
thanks.
United States account for the most highest value startup. Yeah.
Right. And you mentioned earlier that China has the most patents. So what we're
Yes.
talking about is intellectual property rights in many cases, and
Mhm.
this is a way of making profit for yourself, protecting your ideas, but it's also a way of stifling competition. So if I have a patent that says you can't do this because I own the patent, then you can either pay me for the patent, compensate me for every sale that you make, or don't start a conflicting business. So this is something that we have to sort out, the patents, because if you have a lot of patents, then your startup is valuable. You have a lot of control over whether or not the competition can come and take sales away from you. So this is why China and the United States have the highest value startups, one of the reasons. And it's one of the primary reasons. And I think it's patent law is the sport of kings and will change over time. Well, we become more inclined to share information rather than hoard it. Because right now we're based on scarcity. The scarcer the idea, the access to the idea, the better for an individual company. So if you have a startup that has a patent, your chances of getting proper capitalization and funding go way up. So, okay. So number two,
Mhm.
venture cap.
Venture capital, yeah, funding
Go ahead.
increasing 14% from 2019. So it's mean like COVID actually not create lot of impact on the startup industry. On the other hand, it's actually increasing lot of opportunity.
Yes, out of desperation. But I want to make a distinction here between venture capitaling and other sources of funding, because venture capital really comes in after. Let's not scroll too far. I want to take them one by one.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
venture, yeah. Let's go back to number two so I can see number two again.
Hmm. Yes.
Yeah, venture capital funding increased. So what does that mean? Because venture capital is one source of funding, and usually it only comes in when you've demonstrated revenue. They want a return on investment. So they're a late entry to a startup venture. You don't go from startup to venture capital. You go to startup and other sources of funding. For example, there's a community called angel investors. These angel investors are looking to get in before venture capital comes in. And they're looking to support people that are real, true startups. They're in the initial phases of launching their businesses. These are the people that are more likely to give you money than a venture capital firm is. The venture capital firm is going to you're not even going to get through the administrative assistant to get to the venture capitalist if you don't have some way of proving a return on investment. You don't
Mhm.
have revenue. You're not going to get very far unless it's a hot thing. Like we remember the .com bubble. If you had a business proposal with a .com in it, then they would talk to you because it was hot. And so sometimes there are trends, there are fads, nothing more than fads that they come in, and then venture capitalists will lose their minds and invest in things that have no revenue. But that's rare. That's the occasional occurrence. And generally speaking, you want to be able to show revenue to a return on investment to a venture capitalist. There are angel investors, and find out who the angel investors are that might be interested in your community. They're angel investing organizations. Connect to them. This is part of your networking strategy. Find out who is interested. Say it's a science project, a science company, a science organization of any kind. Then find out who are the angel investors in directed towards science. If it's art, find out who they are for art. If it's education, find out who they are for education, and do the networking to find out who are the people that might fund you early on before you have demonstrated an ability to make a profit by making sales. And once you get enough capitalization to get to the point where you have a product and you can actually sell it, you could prove it that you can actually sell it, and you're getting people to buy your product, then the venture capitalists come into play. So thanks. Let's go on to number
Mhm.
3.
Mhm. Number three, robotics industry has grown 1,400% over the last 5 years.
Yes. Now, anytime I see a statistic like this, I immediately ask, grown from what?
Mhm.
Because if I go from 2 to 10, I've been grown by five times. Wow,
Mhm.
it's big. 10 is still a small number. So what did it start with? Looks like a big number,
Mhm.
1,400%. But how small was it to begin with? So what are we
Mhm.
talking about? Is it a big thing? And I
Mhm.
would say that robotics is a big thing. But don't
Mhm.
be confused by statistics that you see like that. Over the last
Mhm.
5 years, I don't care whether that number is 700%, 200%, 500%, whatever that number is. I want to know compared to what. So you have to be careful about statistics that you see like this. But this is a relevant statistic, but not all the statistics you see will be relevant. I think this is an indication that robotics is a place to look. If your skill set is in this area, you have a better chance. Your odds go up of starting a new organization, a new business, a new venture.
Mhm.
Okay, number
Okay.
4.
And the artificial intelligence startup funding grew $8.2 billion in 2020. Uh, it is the source of inside big data.
Yes, this is a good number because it's not a statistic like a percentage of growth. Um, this means that at least 8.2 billion. Trust the source. Do you not trust the source? Ask yourself that. The source is trustworthy, I think. And so we can say there's a lot of money flowing into artificial intelligence. So is that where your skill set is? Is your business venture associated
Yes.
with artificial intelligence?
Mhm.
Then money is flowing into this. Your odds of success go up.
Mhm.
So be reassured if this is your business venture, there is money to be uh, given to keep you afloat until you are profitable. And there
Mhm.
may be somebody that you get to a certain point that buys you and says, okay, you spent $25,000 to get started. I'm going to give you 2.5 million for your business. And then you go,
Mhm.
whoa, okay, fine.
Mhm.
Success.
Mhm. Excellent.
5.
Uh, yes. The most active reason for startup are the Caribbean and Latin America.
Now, this was interesting to me. And I can only speculate as to why that is. So let me just take a second and read this.
Mhm.
Okay, getting startup funding is more difficult in these regions. This is key.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
why United States and China. Okay, so they have entrepreneurial spirit. That's good.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right. So
Yes.
this is an interesting statement. The most
Mhm,
active regions for startups are the Caribbean and Latin America. Now, why? Because maybe because there aren't other jobs,
mhm,
that
mhm,
there aren't other career paths, so
mhm,
they have to start up their own.
mhm,
So it could be as simple as that. I don't know because I just become aware of this, but
mhm,
they don't have a lot of people investing in their enterprise.
mhm,
So this is why you see that China and the United States still have the highest value startups because people are
mhm,
investing in the startups in China and the United States. They're not investing so much in the Caribbean and Latin America. So if you're starting up in the Caribbean or Latin America, be aware of that. It's going to be more difficult for you to get investors. And so if you're not adequately capitalized to begin with, your odds of success
mhm.
go down.
Mm.
So are
One
you
aspect,
adequate? Go ahead.
one aspect, because I have some critical mind and some industrial experience. Let's say I helps to grow some uh, excellent startup, and they are very successful. Let's say Cambrian Education Group in Bangladesh. We do not have any investors, zero investors. We do not have any bank. We do not have any first world investor or other things, but we make it successful. We make it $1 billion business. Even from the inside of the industries, there is a many untrust and other things on investor want to kill the startup, investor want to control the startup, investor actually
Yes.
create barrier for
Yes.
innovations, many things. But do you think only we have to focus on investors and investor, or we should focus on our own earning, own path way of improvement? Because from my personal life, I saw, like example, yes, World Talent Economy Forum, we are looking for investment, but we are not crazy. We want to make our business and make things successful, and uniquely we want to grow. Even from my personal experience, I saw successful startup without any investors, they can make it successful. So what is your observation? I just want sharing my Asian views. I want to
That's an
know the American views as well.
No, that's an excellent point, Sharif, and I'm glad you brought that up because not everybody has to go to the path of angel investors, and and not everybody has to be sufficiently capitalized because
Mhm,
if you assemble a team of volunteers that are like-minded in what you're doing, then the spirit, the entrepreneurial spirit that you bring as a team of like-minded individuals can take you very far, as Sharif is just telling you.
mhm,
Now, this is an alternate way of doing a startup and being successful at it. It's not the traditional Silicon Valley path, but it can be done. It has been done, you
yeah.
know, be, and so this is a way if you cannot get capitalized and if you cannot go through the traditional Silicon Valley way of getting capitalization, then you're going to rely on a volunteer based
Mhm,
organization of like-minded individuals who see a problem in society and have a solution and are going to make it work.
mhm,
And they're going to give you their time, their energy without asking to be paid in return. And if you can assemble that kind of team, hats off to you. That's another way to do it, to be successful without getting the monetary rewards that the
mhm.
Silicon Valley approach will tell you. So thank you for bringing that up.
Mhm.
Great point.
Yeah, if even I just want to, you bring also brilliant points, like we need same mind of people. I can remember for growing this company, from my first initiative is I need to bring the right people in my team, right? As it is the education industry, I need to faculty peoples and many more things in my team. So I can remember from 8,000 people, I select 160 people for my organizations. And when I left this group of companies, I can remember it's $1 billion business. Uh, we have around 1,600 employees, around 21 campus, 42 hostels, and we provide already service around 100,000 students around Bangladesh. So I don't know, maybe it's not accurate for Silicon Valley or accurate for other countries, but my observation is that, like, we have to be rely on people. rely on people. If we just running behind big company, big banks, big media, these that, we can lose our point. We cannot
Yes.
add values, because society need values, I believe. Because when they find that, okay, you are adding values to the society, ultimately they can come, they will come and they can join, they will come and they can join. Even I follow for World Talent Economy Forum the same ways. Even though today actually one of the big institutions in Malaysia, they said that, okay, I want to bring 1,000 students. So it's all about value. We do not have a investing huge amount of money for marketing this that, or we do not have a big investors. So I do not know. This is my core understanding, because I started my career in 14 years before. So 8 years I grow business and we make it successful, then for higher study purpose I move. Now I try to grow business. And I'm very honest with you, when I have a chance to engage with Nasdaq, many stock exchange commissions, different kind of things, sometimes I find it's very difficult for a startup. So maybe I do not know, we can focus on how to build up the team, how to add value through your business, how you can engage with your communities. Actually, if society find that, okay, they are very valuable for us, they give the return, they give the outcome. We do not have to think more. But I do not know what your views, I love to learn from you.
Well, you're describing a different way of doing it, which is also completely valid. I was trying to give you a perspective of the Silicon Valley approach, but it's not the only approach. The approach that you're describing is also equally valid and has probably a very similar record of success versus failure. Because when you assemble a team of volunteers that are doing the work out of love, passion for the project, or out of the societal good because of their value systems. That is an untapped resource that you cannot put a financial price on. You cannot tell me what that is worth. And that can be successful. And so, are we trying to turn this into a money making opportunity? Is it a not for profit based, which is really what you're my way of thinking? You're describing something that is value based rather than numbers based, finance based. So these are of equal value to
Mhm,
society.
mhm,
You can do it either way, and it's not an either or. You can do both. I have done both. So
mhm,
it is I just cannot stress that the way that you're describing the situation has an equal amount of value, and it can work, and
mhm,
it can fail. And we want to be cognizant of the fact that there will be more failures than success, but also not become discouraged by this. We have to persevere through the occasional setback. And yes, I have experienced setbacks. I have experiences business failures, startup failures. And did I stop? Did I throw my hands up? No, I kept going. And this is what I want to encourage your viewers. Okay, your odds of success are not great, but if you keep persevering, you assemble the proper team and you keep trying, and you pick up the pieces and dust yourself off when you fall, that will eventually, more often than not, be successful. So if your odds of success are 2 out of 10, well, if you try once, your odds of success are not good. If you try twice, your odds go up. If you try 3 times, your odds go up. If you try 10 times, well, you're going to be successful once or twice. Come on, keep trying. So this is really important. So number 8,
mhm.
New
New
Zealand.
Zealand, yes. New
Go
Zealand,
ahead.
Canada, and Hong Kong are the best places for open a business in 2021. These things I love to learn, very important. And I just want to know, because developing nations, they are struggling a lot for the uh, getting investment or companies from, like the developed nation. They do not want to go too much in developing nations, even though they have their strong ecosystem. There are many statistics and other things. What does it mean, the best place for say open a business? for you, because you are experienced from Silicon Valley, and how we can add more values for different entrepreneur, startup, or many countries from around the world, uh, for them, and what type of, I want to say, like values the startup wants to. Let's say they want to come to Malaysia, what they want to go to Indonesia, what they want, or they want to go to Singapore, what they want. What is your observation?
Yeah, and one thing I'm trying to tell you about the Valley model, but I'm hardly the best representative of Silicon Valley. I'm not even in the top 10%. There's many people that have much greater expertise about it, but I know generally how it works. So that's what I'm trying to communicate. And what we have here in New Zealand, Canada, and Hong Kong are the best place. The first thing they say is they have removed a lot of the red tape. Well, depending on the state that you're in the United States, there's more or less red tape too. So red tape is basically the bureaucratic paperwork that you have to go through to start an enterprise. California requires a lot of forms that you fill out, and then you have to do them at a particular time and date, and you have to do it annually. And so a lot of people think that this is frustrating. This is a waste of time. Why should I do this? But this regulation is plus or minus, because otherwise you have fraud. You have people performing fraud, tax evasion, and scamming people, and offering to sell them something and not delivering. So you need this red tape. It's not an either or thing. You need some of it, but can you do it optimally? This is a struggle. Can you do it an optimal amount where you can protect the consumer, but also allow the entrepreneurial spirit to thrive? Now, we have never come up with a perfect balance. So when we're talking about the places like, if you could back up again, was it New Zealand, Canada, and Hong Kong, I think,
Mhm.
that they were the ones that they were concentrating on. Well, yeah, I think New Zealand is good in many ways, but it is rather remote. So, if you're selling something over the internet, then it doesn't matter. If you have distribution centers around the world, it doesn't matter. But it depends on the type of business that you're starting. And Canada, I love Canada for many reasons. And they have a good startup environment for the entrepreneurs. They have less red tape. So maybe that is a good location. And Hong Kong, I think Hong Kong was a model for most of the rest of us on how to be a great, startup and have that spirit and have that international cooperation. And is that changing?
Mhm.
I would say it is. So beware of reading the past and saying what worked good in the last recently will still work good in the future, because now the political reality in Hong Kong is why don't you look at the stats for China and say, is it the best place to start up? Because actually Hong Kong is not Hong Kong the way we used to think of Hong Kong anymore.
Mhm.
Hong Kong is changing. So be aware of changing environments as well. It may be politics, it may be natural disasters, it may be pandemics, it may be a lot of things, but the environment that you read about may no longer exist. And this is why you want to think ahead. When you're an entrepreneur, you want to think ahead and plan for the future. Well, this has got a lot of variables in planning for the future, and are, and some of them you can't account for, like natural disasters, but some of them you can, like governmental change. Is the business community in a good place right now to start a business? Well, that might change. In 4 years, it might not be. So where do I want to be in 4 years? Do I want to be someplace else? Now, New Zealand looks like a stable environment. Canada looks like a stable environment. Hong Kong, not so much to me. So these things you have to factor into. Hong Kong was a model. Will it be a model? I don't know.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, this is very interesting. Beside that, one point, what I find the problem in the youth communities, uh, identify the problem. Most of the cases, many people try to copy each other. They are trying to copying from here, there, and they try to I don't know, but you can check World Talent Economy Forums. We are trying to make it a unique organization from the day one. Just I do not want to follow someone from our own uniqueness, relationship, and own unique values. We are trying to add value to the society. So
You're a
that's why
unicorn.
many
You're a
organizations tried
unicorn, Sharif.
already they love our contributions. uh, Maybe we do not make too much of big money, but we are making values for our society. But I want to train the youth community because they have to add value. If they copy too much, they cannot. Even I always said that developing nations do not always copy to the developed nations. Do not try to develop, let's say, flying cars. Let's say this and that. What your community has, trying to solve this problem. So, am I right? What do you think? What is your
Oh,
observations?
I completely agree with that, Sharif, and I think that's not what you're taught in schools. But I agree with it. I think it's very important. What you want to do, I think, is start with yourself. What am I good at? What skill sets do I lack? Do I want to go and acquire those skill sets? Can I acquire those skill sets? Ask yourself that. And then if I do not have the skill sets, I cannot acquire them, then who has them? And build a team around that. But first you have to ask yourself, what am I trying to solve? What is the problem? Because if you find out if a problem is accurately stated, it's half solved. Because then you know the problem that you're trying to solve is X. So your solutions start to pop into your head. And what are the tenable solutions? Okay, that these few over here that are they're not tenable. So forget those. What are the tenable solutions? Oh, okay. What are the ones that I'm good at? Okay, it's smaller number. Okay, now I start to focus in on what the solution is that I can do, I can provide to this problem, and then ask yourself: is that problem just a problem that bugs me, or is it a problem that society has? Am I solving a problem that society has? Then I have a viable product, a viable service, a viable solution. And if I ask these things, and you know what? If you're starting up and becoming something else, copying somebody isn't the answer. And we have this whole business of patents so that you can't copy people. So if you have this idea of that is revolutionary and no one has ever thought about it and they patent it, even if you, and this is a case, there's so many tragic stories of people coming up with an idea and not understanding that they have to patent it. And then some other company sees the idea and they patent it. And this person who had this idea and came up with a solution doesn't profit from it. The company does because they get ones that got the patent in first. So I say patent is the sport of kings because this is just something that we have to address as a globe. We have to address intellectual property in ways that we have not done in the past because it's a brand new ballgame out there and we're all in it together. But the idea of copying will only take you so far. If you're copying somebody's, you're doing a math problems and you're copying off the student sitting next to you, you're not learning how to do it. So this is not a long-term success strategy. Inventing, innovation, creativity, these are the skill sets that you really need. These are the things that have value to society. And our education society doesn't train you in those. They train you to copy. They train you to do what everybody else does. Now, that is not what we're talking about. We're talking about doing something that no one else is doing. How do you get that? So train yourselves. Don't wait for someone to teach you. Teach yourself. Have confidence in yourself and do what nobody else is doing. And you will run up against opposition. You will run up against naysayers. Persevere through that negativity. You must have confidence in yourself that you're doing the right thing. And if it's for the good of society and not just yourself, keep going. If it's just good for you, you know, I don't care if you succeed or fail. I'm not
Mhm,
interested in what you're doing. So
mhm,
these are the things you have to ask yourself. What am I doing and why? Is it just to make money for me? You know, I personally don't care if you succeed. If it's good for society, then I'm 100% behind you. I want you to succeed.
mhm. Mhm. Excellent. Beside that, human resource management, human resource recruitment, this is very, very important. What is
Yes.
your advice when the startup move with this human resource management? Even though World Talent Economy Forums want you, as you have a great experience in managerial peoples and manage business, we want to invite you, our core team, to handle the all critical components. And I believe that you can make it successful. We are like a startup. What is your advice?
Yes.
What is your guideline? Yeah.
Yeah, you're a unicorn startup, Sharif. You're one of a kind. And I do believe that, I got my master's in human resources because this is an unvalued part of organizational corporation strategy, corporation organization. Organization development was the key. How do you develop a good organization? Because then you have these people with various skill sets. How do you get them to cooperate, to work together? Because if people are struggling to get their promotions for themselves and are hoarding information because they know information is power, then you have a bad organization. You have a bad organization because people aren't cooperating. Now, how do you get people to cooperate? Pull all the oars in the same direction so that the boat moves. How do you do that? Well, that's really where human resources comes in. How do you evaluate? How do you evaluate someone who's really good for the team or just good for themselves? Who's doing that? Who's making that evaluation? And have they been trained on how to do that? Because there is training available. So get that training, put them in your management team, make sure they're trained. If you have people that are going to make personnel decisions and they only reward the people that are in it for themselves, guess what kind of organization you get? So train your managers to make good personnel decisions. This is what a human resource expertise can give you. Can give you to organizations, but they basically think of it as a cost center. It's just an expense item on the report because it doesn't generate revenue. But what it does generate is good organizations with good values and good esprit de corps. And this you cannot put a price on.
Mhm.
This will make the difference between whether your organization is successful. If it is a happy place to go to work, and if you're happy, you're not really working. So these things are invaluable. And being united by a core value is not enough because people have different personalities. People have different um, ways of dealing with others. And so what you want to do is have someone who's good at moderating the different personalities. People have different learning styles. People have different ways of presenting their information, and sometimes they rub each other the wrong way. So how do you have a mediator in the middle to make sure everybody's productive, everybody's maximizing their potential, everybody feels rewarded and valued? That's what human resources is about.
Mhm,
Great
mhm.
topic.
Excellent.
Great question.
Yes, yes, excellent. So when you are a entrepreneurs, you have to think about everything. You have to think about your sales and business developments. You have to think about your financial management, human resource management. This is very important part, but many times we ignore it. Uh, Beside that, even there is a investors. We have to think about that how investors can engage with our business and how we can grow a global ecosystem for our company. I love to learn more. Like if we build up a company as a startup from different countries or different cultural people join, is it helpful or in between same culture is helpful? What's your opinion? How we can do that?
Well, I'm pro diversity, and I think that we can't be blind to the fact that different cultures have different values and different expectations. What's polite in one country might be rude in another. So, we have to be aware of these differences. But I think if we focus on the similarities, we'll get further,
Mhm.
because we have more in common than we don't. And when we focus on the differences, we can get into a destructive cycle, a pattern of interaction. And if we focus on what we have in common, then we can become a constructive way of doing business together. So focus on what we have in common because we have much more in common than we have differences. Now, be aware of the differences and even celebrate the differences. What's wrong with somebody who does something a different way? Why does that threaten me? It doesn't threaten me. But why are people threatened by it? It's because they don't, or they're not aware. They're just celebrating something that's similar to something you celebrate a different way. What's wrong with that, for crying out loud? So allow people to do their thing the way they do it, and be aware that what you think is a fine thing to say might be a rude thing to say to them. Be aware and don't judge. Don't judge good or bad,
Mhm,
right or wrong.
mhm,
This is how you cooperate with people that have come from different cultures, come from
mhm,
different backgrounds. And can be true for your economic background as well. This can be true if you come from the northern part of the United States or the southern part of the United States. This can be true if you come from a Baptist church or a Catholic church. So we can find all sorts of ways to differentiate ourselves and find the differences between us and push ourselves away from each other, build walls between each other. We're good at that. What we have to be good at is tearing down the walls, bringing us
mhm.
together. And these people that can communicate to other people are people who value everyone, even though they're different, because we have more in common than we have differences. We're all human beings. We're all Homo sapiens. Let's start with that. Then the differences become small and the similarities become great.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you. This is excellent discussions. We actually, I'm sure for this content is very, very helpful for startup because they are getting very diversified information from global communities, like from different statistics and informations. Uh, and beside that, I believe that from your experience, they're getting a brilliant outcome. And some of the people, they're always frustrated. Hey, I'm trying to getting finance, investment, failing. Do not believe in the big companies and the big banks or other things. Follow your own path. Believe in your community. I believe that in between your community there are a lot of opportunity. In between your country there are a lot of community. Maybe it's you live in Malaysia, you live in Indonesia, you live in Vietnam, you live in India, or you live in Pakistan or Bangladesh, or in USA, or in North America. You have an excellent opportunity in between your own community. So be the best in between your own community. Ultimately, the global community will support you. So thank you, Mr. James Eid, for your excellent support for World Talent Economy Forum. And always I said, those who are the speaker, this is your organizations. This is, do not feel that hey, someone from Malaysia doing this. This is your organization. You are part of our board of advisor, our teams. So make a effective organizations, make an effective media, make an effective example. Trust me, many important things will happen in our life. Already we are getting very good support from our local ecosystems. They are feeling that we can do some things. So your help, your contribution will change millions of people's life. Trust me, you can visualize all of the success, that how we engage with our local ecosystem and trying to change the human resource and make them more effective and more productive. So thank you all of your support for World Talent Economy Forum. So what's your concluding remarks for today?
My concluding remark is that, uh, you know, we're all in this together, and you're only going to get so far if you're in it for yourself. So start with yourself and ask yourself, what am I good at? What are my weaknesses? What am I? What do I need to be successful? And do I have a problem? A solution for a problem that society needs? And is it just something that bugs me personally? Start with yourself. Ask yourself these types of questions. And am I doing the right thing? Before you get started, before you even start at the first, open a bank account to get started, ask yourself, what is it that I bring to the table? And why am I doing this? Start with yourself and then assemble a team. Start with your community. Start with yourself, then go to your community. And then maybe the solution that you're providing is solving a problem that extends beyond your community. And who knows where it will end. If you're solving a problem that's all of society has, there's no end to the reach. Now, don't make the classic mistakes of undercapitalizing. Don't make the classic mistake of thinking that you got all the answers. Don't make the classic mistakes that are a result of failure after failure after failure. If you don't make the classic mistakes, your odds of success go way up. Know that you can't do it all by yourself. Maybe you're not a legal person. Maybe you need some legal advice. Maybe you're not an accountant. Maybe you need someone giving you accounting advice. Or maybe you need an accountant. Find out what you need, find out what you're good at, and then how are you going to get it? This is strategy. Think ahead, plan ahead. Be strategic and not just tactical in your thinking. And also think about yourself in terms of, am I an introvert? Am I a marketing person or am I a technical person? And if I'm one or the other, get the other on your team, because it's going to need both. You need technical experts. They tend to be introverted. You need marketing experts. They tend to be extroverted. So build a team around you. And you don't all have to get along every day, but you generally have to get along and find out the ways of smoothing over the differences. Introverts and extroverts don't have to dislike each other. Smooth over the differences of communication style. This is what human resources can do for you. So, there are a lot of ways to go wrong, but there are ways to go right. And there's not one way to go right. So trust in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
but be aware
Mm-hmm.
that different approaches are not bad or good. Lower the judgment and increase the value. This is my last concluding remark. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
the opportunity, Sharif.
Thank you. Thank you. This is an excellent show. I believe that it will be very valuable for the startup and those who develop the startup ecosystem. World Talent Economy Forum believe in talents, believe in talent people, believe in the people contributions. So yes, we are advocating for modern science, modern engineering, modern technology, but we believe in the team developments, the core team. And I believe this way we will change our global community with the help of global people. Thank you, Mr. Jamid, for joining today's session. Thank you for your excellent contribution for World Talent Economy Forum. Next week, we have our conference on the Smart City Conference. You and your friend, those who want to join in World Talent Economy Forum, they can join. And hopefully by this way, we will grow our ecosystem in an effective way. Thank you. Bye-bye and take care.
Thank you.